For the last 30 years, the global sourcing playbook was exactly 1 page long. If you wanted to build it, you mass-produced it in China. But the math behind that playbook is breaking down. Coastal wages in cities like Shenzhen are approaching nearly $1,000 a month. Minimum order quantities remain notoriously rigid, but you actively shift a parallel line to an emerging hub like India or Vietnam. In this video, we will build a step-by-step, actionable transition plan to shift a targeted portion of your manufacturing specifically to India. Diversifying your supply chain across borders insulates your operations from geopolitical shocks and sudden cost spikes. If one production line goes down, your business survives. Step 1. Stop comparing raw factory floor unit prices. To understand actual profitability, we have to calculate the total landed cost. This chart shows the side-by-side ledger for importing a single item. That $10 component from China might look identical to the $10 component from India on the initial quote. But once you add freight and duties, the Chinese item jumps to $13 at the port, while the Indian item lands at $11.80. Let's look exactly at how those duties break down. Recent trade agreements cap many Indian exports into the US at an 18% tariff. Meanwhile, Chinese goods are still hitting Section 301 duties that push the total tax over 30%. Before shipping even begins, India also provides a strong baseline advantage in labor. Manufacturing wages there are currently 50 to 60% lower than in Chinese coastal hubs. When you run the complete arithmetic, profitability is determined at the customs port. Factoring in those taxes and transport fees makes the seemingly cheaper Chinese option mathematically inferior for US and UK buyers. Step 2. Factor in your cost of capital. Buying bulk inventory to get a discount often means tying up your cash in a warehouse full of dead stock, hoping consumer trends don't change before it sells. Chinese factories operate on a massive scale, which requires massive minimum order quantities. They frequently demand runs of 10,000 units or more just to start production. Indian manufacturers, by contrast, structure their production around much more agile runs. You can easily find high-quality factories willing to work with batches as small as 200 to 500 units. This gives you the flexibility to execute a lean pilot run. You can test a new product in the market, gather customer feedback, and iterate the design, all without risking your operating cash on a massive first order. Freeing up capital through these lower minimums provide a far greater competitive advantage than raw volume discounts ever could. Step 3. Audit your micro components. Let's look at the bill of materials for a bag or a shoe, specifically focusing on a single small piece of hardware, the eyelet. These parts are made using a specialized sheet metal technique called progressive eyelet drawing. For the component to function, the depth of the metal barrel must safely exceed its diameter without the material tearing. Because of high-volume mass production and the use of significantly thinner gauge metal sheets, Chinese eyelets are typically 10 to 30% cheaper up front. But the combination of thin gauge metal and inconsistent, poor plating means those cheaper parts often severely rust within 15 to 30 days of normal use. Indian manufacturing standards often prioritize the structural integrity of the component. They offer thicker gauges, better raw material sourcing, and highly consistent brass or nickel plating across batches. Compromising on raw material quality for these micro-components does not save money in the long run. You simply shift the cost from your initial purchase order directly to customer returns and brand damage. Step 4. Consider how you physically scale your operations. Eventually, you will need the right machinery inside India to handle increased production. Do not make the mistake of importing your own machinery from Taiwan or Italy. Bringing outside equipment into the country attracts a heavy 7.5% customs duty, which makes local assembly unviable. Instead, you should build direct partnerships with India's rapidly expanding ecosystem of local B2B industrial equipment suppliers and assemblers. Sourcing your machinery locally allows you to bypass those import taxes entirely. It also guarantees much faster maintenance turnarounds because your technicians and replacement parts are already in the region. Secure your diversification by embedding your product into a fully localized, self-sustaining production ecosystem. We now have a clear checklist. Calculate your total landed cost, leverage low minimum order quantities, protect your micro-component quality, and source your equipment locally. Now it is time to put this into practice. Open your current bill of materials. Identify one high-risk, low-complexity component on that list, like a brass fitting or a simple shoe eyelet. Reach out to an Indian partner today and request a pilot quote for just 500 units. Executing this exact diversification strategy insulates your operations from single-point failures. By shifting a strategic portion of your production, you guarantee a highly resilient, shock-proof supply chain for the future.